Our friends over at Powered 4 TV are giving listeners to this podcast an incredible 50% off your first month when you sign up to powered4.tv and use the promo code JONAS. Powered 4 TV are one of the leading on-demand streaming services in the UK, with tons of shows from over 20 wrestling promotions from around the UK and the US, including TNT Extreme, Chicagoland Championship Wrestling, DNA Pro Wrestling, Full Force Wrestling, Ignite Wrestling, and so many more. There's also plenty more to enjoy, including an incredible archive of classic matches, live layers with William Eva, podcasts, and so much more. Sign up to Powered 4 TV today and save 50% off your first month. Just use the promo code JONAS.
Hello and welcome to the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network Sunday special interview. Very excited today because on the show today I have a up-and-coming star in the world of professional wrestling. He is all gas, no brakes. He is straight brazy. I'm talking about Brayden Lee. Brayden, welcome to the show, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. That was a good introduction too, by the way. Some people get the names wrong, so thank you.
I did my research, man. I make sure I get it right. And I hope I get this name right. I just want to congratulate your brother. Is it Kyson?
Kyson, yes.
Kyson, yeah. All right. I got that right too. Congratulate him for
you
becoming.
Did. Yeah, you're on top of it.
All right, man. We're becoming close friends already, man.
Yes.
I'm in your good graces right now. So congratulations to him for becoming the 2021 IHSAA 132-pound state wrestling champion. You must be very proud.
I'm unbelievably proud. I grew my family is like full of wrestlers. I'm the oldest of 5, so all of us have wrestled at some point in time. And he's the first one to capture that accomplishment. So I mean that's like proud doesn't even begin to describe how I feel. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Awesome, man. Unbelievable moment, man. Okay, so let's get back to Brayden Lee. So how did it all begin for you? At which point in your life did you decide you wanted to pursue a career in professional wrestling?
I'd say probably like most people. I mean, I grew up watching wrestling, and the idea was always kind of there. But you know, as you're growing up, some people don't really know exactly what direction. They're kind of just going whatever way life pulls them, and I was kind of the same way. It wasn't until like college, I'd say, that I really started to like consider that an option, and that seems kind of late, I guess, compared to some people. But it was about like the end of my junior year of college when I decided like, oh, maybe I'm going to give this a try. And that's when I started like looking around for schools and just anywhere I could train or go learn or get involved. I mean, really, because that was the thing. It was I didn't know a lot about the business side of it, and I didn't know anybody in it. So a lot of my research came through like Google and shoot interviews. So I was trying to like figure it out through that. But eventually I was able to come across so I have an acquaintance at an old job, and they were like, I think I know somebody who does this actually. And because I was explaining, like, I kind of want to get into this. And he ended up knowing this guy who is like an on-screen general manager for what would end up being my home federation that ended up training me. So, and then he introduced me to them, and then that was pretty much how it got started.
Did you watch much wrestling growing up? I mean, did you have anybody that you followed? Like, who were your favorites growing up?
Yeah, so I was actually a big like early to mid 2000s TNA fan. I watched WWE because it was like, you know, it's the most advertised product. It's the stuff that people have like the most access to. So like I was a a big wrestling fan. I watched Rey Mysterio a lot when it came to WWE. He was like my first favorite wrestler, and I'd always get so mad when he would lose. And then, but when I watched like TNA, which was actually my favorite show to watch, like I liked watching that more than WWE, but I wasn't really like experienced with like the internet or anything back then, so I didn't know how to like find out about it. I just knew it was on like Spike TV at this time and I would sit there and I'd wait. And I was like a big Amazing Red fan. And I didn't understand how like any of it worked. So I would sit there the whole show, wait for Amazing Red to come on. And if he wasn't on, I'd get so mad. I'd be like, gosh, they're not using the best wrestler on their roster. What are they doing? And so, yeah, so those were like my two like big favorites. Eventually I started to like other people as I just like watched the show more. So I was like a big Motor City Machine Guns fan. A lot of the junior cruiserweight high flying style, those were like always my favorite wrestlers, like plus with like Kurt Angle and like a few other guys, AJ Styles, like those were the guys I'd say like I came up watching and were big fans of.
Okay, I'm from Queens, New York. I think I'm a little older than you. I was around watching Amazing Red when he was first starting out on the indie scene in Queens, New York, and I was a big fan. He was with the SATs. I don't know if you're familiar with the Spanish announce team.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was with them, and I remember them first starting out, but amazing talent, Amazing Red.
Yes, yeah. I just the way his uniqueness, I guess, like he was doing things that like nobody else was doing. Yeah. Like on any show that granted I was only watching WWE and TNA. I didn't watch independent wrestling back then. But like for that, but like just the difference between the two shows, I was like, oh my gosh, like why don't people watch TNA? Like look at all this stuff they're doing. Yeah. It's crazy. So
yeah, it was great stuff, man. Still a big Impact fan today. So you're an amateur wrestler. Did you find it hard transitioning from amateur wrestling to professional wrestling?
I'd say there's like, I don't really know how to answer this because like, I think there's benefits to it, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything is so like smooth necessarily, you know? So like one thing that I think like amateur wrestling does help with is you kind of have an understanding of like feeling of another person. You know, because like when you're amateur wrestling, like you have partners that you like drill moves with and you practice moves and stuff. So you kind of have like that feel already. You understand how to kind of like work with somebody a little bit, like not fully. I mean, but like you get the idea of like how to let the guy do something to you so he can practice doing it and stuff like that. So you get like those types of benefits and you kind of understand the realness of like certain scenarios. So like that's like all good. But I mean, there's definitely like a lot of things like, at least for me, I'm not a big like showman. And when I was like an amateur wrestler, I definitely wasn't like that. I went out there, I shook the guy's hand, I wrestled my match and I did my business, you know? So like that was like a big struggle. Moving over into pro wrestling was like, oh, you have to engage the crowd. Like they don't want to see you just go out there and all right, I'm a wrestler guy. And like they don't want to see that, but like that's how ingrained that stuff can be from like an amateur wrestling background. Now, some people don't have that problem. If you're looking at like a Kurt Angle, some people just get it and they're awesome. And that's why he's one of the greatest. But I know for me, that was like a big struggle. So
now, did you always know that you always wanted to pursue the high flying, fast paced style that you're using today? Is that always what you wanted to do? Or did you maybe start out, maybe you want to be like a brawler or something?
So like, yeah, I mean, as a fan, I love the high flying style. So I thought like if I ever got into wrestling, like that's what I wanted to do. Like when I would create like my characters on like SmackDown versus Raw or whatever, I would like make my wrestler like always be doing like 450s and stuff like that. Cause I knew like that was like the stuff I wanted to do if I ever got into wrestling. But believe it or not, I actually was like terrified of flying at first because I took like early in training, I took a bump off of the second rope, like off the middle rope. And when I landed, I said, oh, that sucks. I'm never doing that again. I said, I'm gonna have to rethink everything. I said, I'm gonna stick to the ground. We're not doing any high flying stuff, like, cause that was awful. But eventually I got over it. So first, so I had a brief moment, I guess, where I considered doing something else, but I got over it.
Yeah, I was going to ask how it felt bumping for the first time. Were you sore afterwards? But how did you feel when you let me rephrase the question. How did your first bump feel? The first bump you ever took?
Well, the first bump I ever took, I didn't touch my chin, so it didn't feel great.
Okay.
I smacked my head on the ground. But but after that, yeah, like you definitely get sore. I mean, I think that's part of it, and that's like part of the physicality of wrestling that I think we forget about sometimes, is because you condition your body so much to like take those bumps, that maybe like you forget about how like wearing it is on your body, and something to be like mindful of as you like go forward. You know, like I mean, there are definitely times where I just get so caught up in it that like I forget about the little and important stuff. You know, like just taking like a regular hip toss. Like, I mean, that used to suck. Like, and it's like my body still feels that same impact, but I've just gotten used to it. It's not that it's any less less impactful. I don't want to say damaging, but like, you know what I mean? So
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So how long did it take for your training until you felt comfortable enough that it's time for me to step in the ring and have my first match? And how did you feel right before that first match? You must have had huge butterflies in your stomach, man.
yeah, definitely. I definitely was very nervous. Because you kind of go like, at least I did, I should say. I kind of went like in this, I had this like push and pull type thing with it. I guess that's like the best way to describe it. So like there were times where I was pushing because like I wanted to have my first match and I wanted to be ready for that first match. But then when they started talking about it a little bit, I'd kind of pull back and I'd be like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not ready. You know, I kind of had like that type of effect going on a lot. So it was like I wanted to like push and be ready for it, like, and I wanted to believe I was ready for it. But then anytime it would kind of get brought up, I would be like, I don't know, because I would see all the things that like I knew I had to work on still. And I was like, I'm very much like a perfectionist when it comes to like my just performances, I guess, like, or just any, like a lot of facets of my life. I like to have them as close to perfect as I can. So I definitely didn't feel ready. That's that is one thing that is for sure. I definitely did not feel ready. I went out and I had a tag match, and I went out there and I only had like 4 things to do and I still messed up like 2 of them. So I wasn't ready.
Yeah, I know how you feel, because I long time ago I wanted to be a stand-up comedian, and I remember going to the open mic nights. I would walk past the door saying I'm ready, and as soon as I get to the front door, I'd keep walking. I wouldn't go in. So it took me a while until I get the confidence up there. So I know what you're saying when they're asking you, oh, are you ready for your first match? And you're like, oh, maybe, not sure, but no, I fully understand what you're saying, man. But
yeah,
yeah,
it's like it's one of and that's, I think that with like a lot of performance things, because like I watch stand up comedy and I listen to like podcast. I watch a lot of performance kind of based stuff, just because that stuff's entertaining to me, and I always think like, oh, maybe I'd like to get into that. And then I think about like how much I struggle with like pro wrestling, like with like the entertaining part of it. And I was like, how do I can't barely like get out there and like and feel like good, like just saying like one weird thing to the fan. How am I going to get up there and tell jokes, like make them laugh, you know? So like, I think that's really admirable that you were like into that. That's so cool to me. Cause I'd get up there and I'd just be like, all right, guys, well, it was a nice thought. And I put the mic down and head back to my seat.
Yeah, and you said you listen to podcasts. You of course listen to this podcast on a weekly basis, right? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Man, he called me out right there.
I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. So how hard was it in the beginning finding work? I know up and coming wrestler. Like what were you doing to get your name out there, and how difficult was it for you to get booked on independent shows in the beginning?
Like at the very start, like I definitely didn't understand how it worked, and I would say that was like how that was probably the biggest like roadblock for me, was like I didn't really like understand. Like I had like a, you know, like when you have like a theory of how something works, but you don't have like any actual experience, so it's like it's not the same. Like you read about it, but you've never done it, so like, it's kind of like that. Like I had people who told me like this is how you get booked, but since like I had never done it, Like I
Okay.
definitely didn't like understand like how it actually worked. I was going off like theories basically. So at the start, I only wrestled like um my home fed, and then they did ring crew, or they used this other company down the road used our ring, and I would go there and set up for them, and then eventually I got on their shows, and those were like the only two companies I worked for probably like 5 or 6 months. So I was wrestling 2 matches a month maybe, and it took me a while to get on that other show, so like I didn't
Yeah.
even wrestle for them for the first few months we were going there. And then my third show, I think that I got on the third company, it was the same thing. Like they started renting out my home fed's ring, and I would go do ring crew there. So then I ended up getting used one time, and then they brought me back. So that was like how my very first like booking started, was just like my home fed did ring crew for these other companies, and I was doing ring crew because I was still a trainee. Like I started having matches before I was officially like released from my training school, like to just not have to be there.
Okay.
Which we agreed to like a 1 year time frame. And I think I had my first match at like 7 or 8 months in, I think. So I still had like a few months left where I was still like a trainee. And
Okay.
that was like how it started, I'd say. And then like after that, it was more like I went through kind of like word of mouth, I guess, like for some other people were like, hey, you should come to like this company or this show, like I'll vouch for you. And like, so I kind of took their advice, and I would show up, I'd let them know, hey, I'm coming to the show this weekend, like, so, and I had a few people like who were willing to vouch for me. And that was how it really started for me.
Okay, and you mentioned ring crew. So, how important is it for a rising star such as yourself to pay your dues while you're coming up in the business? It must be very important to pay your dues, man.
Yeah, I think so. Because it's about respect, at least in the way I look at it. I think like I think that it's important to recognize the history and the dedication that others before you who have paved the road for you. Basically, they've carved a path that you can now follow, and I think that's important for you to show like that respect, so that you so it kind of keeps that aspect of it alive. Like to be a part of this great thing that we're all lucky to be a part of. Like it's like really a blessing that like we get to go out and entertain people through the use of pro wrestling. So I think that's what makes it the most important thing, or paying dues, I should say, is the most important thing when you're first starting out, because it's just about respect. It's about understanding where the business has been before. And even if you aren't like a big history buff or know a lot about older generations of wrestling, it's just important to show respect. I mean, that's what I'd say.
All right, are you familiar with Bob Backlund? You're familiar with Bob.
I know the name, and I
Okay.
know a little bit, but I'm not
Okay.
gonna. I'm yeah.
No, okay, because no, I'm a big fan. Growing up, Bob Backlund was the champion, and he would tell stories of wrestling that he would wrestle shows, and he wouldn't have any money to sleep in a hotel. He couldn't afford a hotel. He couldn't afford food, so he'd have to sleep in the trunk of his car in between shows. Did you ever have to do anything that extreme? Sleeping in a car because you couldn't afford a hotel room because you're not getting paid enough, or anything like that?
I have been blessed with a lot of scenarios that haven't had those types of stories, because I similarly I've heard like I mentioned earlier, I do listen to like shoot interviews from like other wrestlers that I enjoy,
Yeah.
and I've heard some of their stories about them coming up, and I haven't been in a lot of those scenarios. So for that, I'd say I'm very blessed that I haven't had to do something like that. The most like extreme thing, and this isn't even extreme really, was
Yeah.
one time on our way home from Philadelphia, everybody was just so tired that we had to pull over and sleep for like 2 hours. But
Okay.
like and then we just kept going. Like once everybody got a little bit of sleep and we could keep going, like
Okay.
that's about as extreme as it's gotten for me. So I've been
Okay.
blessed that I haven't had to do something like that. But because it's wild. I mean, you hear those and you're like, wow, like that's dedication, So
Yeah, man. Absolutely. And I bet you have no issues getting booked these days. I bet you everyone's knocking on your door to book you right now.
I mean, I'm in a spot, I'd say, like where I'm comfortable. I don't think like I like I don't really know because it kind of happened fast. Like some of these bigger shows that I'm starting to get on, it just happened so fast. So like I haven't really like gotten to like settle it in and let it register. I don't think like people are like, like it's not like I'm getting blown up constantly. So I don't want to go like that far and say that's where it's at for me right now. But like it's definitely like in a spot where I'm happy with it because there's progression and I feel like I'm making progress. So I definitely think like that's and I'm happy about that. So that's like I'd say I'm just in a comfortable spot and I'm in a good spot. So
all right, I think you're making great progress. I'll
thank
rephrase
you.
that. Great progress, man. So I got to ask you, man, how long did it take you to master that 630 splash? Because that is just freaking amazing, man.
Oh, thank you. So I have, oh, man, this is gonna sound, I don't know because like it's been weird. I have been able to do that move for a long time actually, but I was just afraid to do it. Like that was the thing. Like, and I went through different phases of like why I was afraid, and that's kind of what I've realized with a lot of like pro wrestling. And that move particularly has been like a huge lift for me because it showed me like I need to just like get out of my head sometimes. So like I've been able to do that move since 2019, maybe like the end of 2019, I think is when like the first time I did it like at training, and I did it to like just like a crash pad, which is a little higher than like where a person's body would be like. So like I knew like I had the rotation and I could do it. But then like I think the first excuse I came up with was like, well, there was one time I didn't like land as good as I wanted to. Like I landed a little higher, kind of like more on my neck than like my back or my shoulders. And I said, well, I can't hit it perfect every time, so I'm not going to do it. Then it got to a point where like I started hitting it more consistently at training, but I said, well, I can't really aim it. So like I don't want to like miss or like look stupid by doing that. So then I still didn't do it. Then I noticed I was landing consistently in the same spot, but then my last excuse was, well, I don't want to hurt the other guy. That was my final like excuse. I said I don't want to kill the other guy because I feel like I just felt like I was hitting real hard, and I was like, I'm just gonna murder somebody if I do this. So, and then I was finally but I've been wanting to do it. So I was at a show in Michigan, and I was in a scramble. And so there's like, I think there's 7 of us, maybe. I think I can't, 7 or 8. And, it's one of those like matches where you're just like, you're going to hit a few moves and that's like, that's, just do your thing, which is always fun. And I knew like if I wanted to do it, like this was going to be a great opportunity because like I wouldn't be winded from like the match per se, because it's a lot of like hit your move and then take a move and then you go somewhere else and you're on the ground for a while, so you get to like catch your breath. So I was like, am I gonna be tired? And I'll be fine, like I'll be feeling fine. This is like gonna be like if I could just mentally get over it. And so I remember we were like planning everything out. I told this guy, I said, I'm going to come off the top with something here. And then he was like, okay, cool. What? And I was like, I'll let you know, because I was trying to like psych myself up for it. And then finally, like probably 15 minutes before we went out there, I said, hey, are you cool taking a 6:30? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. And I was like, okay. And then, so then once I told him, I knew I couldn't back out now. And that's kind of like one of the reasons I waited so long to tell him, because I was like, because it gave me less time to like back out of it. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. And then the moment came and I just like sent it and it worked out great. And, or it worked out as good as I could have hoped, I guess. And then, I was like, okay. And then like, that was, like you said, it was like a huge lift. I was like, oh, I had nothing to be afraid of. And I came back and he was fine. Said he wasn't hurt or anything. And I was like, okay. So I just said, I just need to get out of my head, basically. So
there you go. You just had to try it once, and you've been using it ever since, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah. I do use it a lot. And the thing is like now, now I'll take it to the ground. Like that's the thing. Like I'll tell people to move and stuff like that, which is like I would have never envisioned myself doing that when I first started. I was like, no, I'm definitely
Okay.
I'm not gonna miss this move ever because that sucks. But like again, it was just like a huge like lift mentally. I was able to like I felt like, oh, I just need to like stop overthinking stuff. Like just if I know I can do something, like just do it. Like and just be confident in it. So
Absolutely, man. Are you worried
yeah.
that you might get hurt? Because you do a lot of high flying moves. Are you ever concerned that you could get hurt and you could be out for a couple months?
Definitely.
Okay.
I'd say that's like I don't have like a fear per se in pro wrestling because like I think like it's a blessing to do this every day. Like every time I get to go out there, I consider this like such like a gift in my life that I get to do this. Like so I don't like have like a big fear of like, you know, what if it all ended tomorrow? But there are times where like I sit there and I think, man, like if I got hurt, like that would really suck. Like if I couldn't wrestle again because I got hurt, that would be like probably the worst case scenario for me because you don't get to like go out on your own terms, you know, like something else. Like if I just decided like tomorrow, like, I don't really want to like wrestle anymore. Like I want to go do something else in my life. You know, I could be okay with that because like that's on my terms. But like
Yeah.
I'd say that's kind of like the big. If I had a fear in pro wrestling, that would be like the biggest one. Is like, what if I get hurt and I just could never do this again? You know, because I wouldn't have like the closure of like of getting to like end it on my terms. So
Yeah.
that's definitely like my biggest fear in pro wrestling.
Okay. Well, I'll say a prayer that you never get hurt, man. You
Yeah, I
just
mean, well, yeah,
stay healthy, man.
yeah, and that's the thing is like it does take like a toll on your body, which like we discussed earlier. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you get the bumps and the bruises and the cuts and all that. And it's scary when certain things happen or like the almost happen because you definitely have those. You have a couple of close calls. I've personally had a few where you watch something back and you're like, oh my gosh, like that could have been so much worse, or like it looked really bad, but like you're not hurt. And yeah, so it's such a scary thing, but like but try to be but you understand the risk first of all. Like when you go out there, you understand like that's part of it, and that's the risk you are willing to take on the minute you go through that curtain. Is anything that could happen, you know, it might happen. So like
Yeah.
it's just part of it, but you try not to like, at least me, I try not to like think about it too much. Like I just try to be confident in what's going to happen out there and that everything's going to go exactly how we want it to, and we're both going to walk away and go home to our families at the end of the night.
All right, cool, man. Cool answer, man. So you've had a lot of success in IWA Mid South, former junior heavyweight champion for that promotion. How would you rate your time with IWA Mid South? And are you still with the promotion?
So I'm not active, or I'm not like with them currently, but not like in a bad way. Just like, you
Okay.
know, I guess kind of the way like IWA works is like, you know, it's just like he's got like a roster that he uses like on his like weekly or like bi-weekly basis. And just right now, I'm just not in the mix of that. Like I'm just not yeah, I'm just not in the mix. That's like as
Okay.
simply as it gets. Which is fine because I've had two runs there now, or I've had two separate times where I was like a weekly basis kind of guy. And you know, I liked my time at IWA Mid South. I feel like that's where I grew a lot as a wrestler because of the weekly performance. That was like a big part of it. Was you're constantly out there in front of a crowd, getting experience and getting repetition. I knew I had something every week. You know, like it may be in addition to other shows. So I knew that like I was going to get multiple matches every week. And so I would say that was like very important for my growth as a wrestler, to get those reps, to figure out kind of who I am and what I do. And to be in the ring with guys who are really good. I mean, there's so many talented guys on that roster who have came through there, and he brings in, or Ian brings in a lot of people, a lot of talented people that he's used over the years. And so like being in that locker room is like such a good experience for upcoming wrestlers, I feel like, because you can learn so much and you can get so good.
You mentioned really good wrestlers there. You had a match with Larry D. So I want to ask you about that for a second.
Yeah.
Larry D, I think 15, maybe 20-year veteran of professional wrestling. What do you look to learn when you're in the ring with a veteran like Larry D? And he's a big guy. And how do you use your high flying technique against such a big wrestler such as Larry D?
Yeah, so that's like honestly like you just made me smile so much because I love Larry. Like he's
Yeah.
literally like one of my absolute favorites. Was always willing to help me like the minute I came to IWA. Uh just he's that type of guy, which like if you ask anybody, that's what they'll say. They'll say Larry's just that type of guy. He's just like one of the best guys. He's one of the best hands, like for no pun intended, one of the best hands to have in your locker room.
Yeah.
He's an absolutely incredible human being. And so when I wrestle Larry, the what I'm looking for me personally is one, just to have like and this with like pretty much everybody is one, you want to have a good match. Like
Yeah.
that's just what you want to have with everybody. And then two, I'm listening to see what he values in a match that maybe I'm not valuing in my matches. Like what do I think is important versus what does he think is important? Because like you said, he's been around a long time. He's signed to Impact right now. I mean, so he's on TV. He's got all this knowledge, all this years of wisdom wrapped up. So I'm trying to see what is he what is he looking at? Like what that because I need to because I'm not in the spot he is. I want to be in the places where he is. I want to be that good. I want to have those types of matches. So what do I need to look at differently? Or what do I need to understand differently to get to that level? We're definitely two different types of wrestlers. You know, he's a big brawler. He can do some very athletic stuff, but he's a big brawler and he's a great personality, got great charisma. But I still think there's a lot of things to learn from him because he sees wrestling through such a unique lens. And so that's like when I step in the ring with him, that's what I'm looking for is what does he value or what does he put emphasis on that maybe I'm not, or what's he looking at that maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he was on the show. He's yeah, I agree with you. He's a great guy to talk to.
Absolutely.
Great guy to talk to.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned Impact Wrestling, which leads into my next question. What led to your appearance on Impact Wrestling Explosion?
So my so when I first got contacted about Impact, the name that they threw out was Alex Shelley was the main reason why that happened. He
Okay.
and I have been so blessed because like that's like one of my heroes. Like when I talked about like watching TNA coming up, like when I first got into the guns, it was like Alex Shelley. Like I like obviously Chris Sabin too, but I mean like I was a big Alex Shelley fan. I always appreciated like his uniqueness and just the way he moved in the ring. He was just cool. Like I just thought he was cool, and I still do. You can ask anybody who hears me talk about him how cool I think he is. So I just thought he was so cool. So that was, I mean, that's basically how it happened. Was the way it was explained to me was they were just looking for to get eyes on some potential X division guys, and my name got thrown out, and then they reached out to me and we had like a little back and forth, and next thing I know, I'm going down there. So I mean, that was, and it was crazy. Like it was one of those things, like kind of like I said earlier, where it just happened so fast. Like I didn't really have time to like process it all because it was just like 1 minute I'm just like, you know, I'm sitting at home doing my thing, and then next thing I know, like I'm talking to D'Lo Brown, and I'm like, wow, this is insane. Like what happened? So yeah.
That must have just blew your mind that someone that you grew up, I don't want to use the word idolizing, but someone that you really admired, and Alex Shelley recommended you for Impact Wrestling. That must have just blew your mind, man.
It's still like I still don't feel it's real. Like I'm like you know, like how that's the thing. So like it's literally like it's so cool. Like I mean, I don't know. Like you want to have like you want to be like, I don't even know like how to feel about it. I can't help but just be like a huge like oh my gosh, this is happening. Like I have to just feel that way because like it's just unreal. So
like what was going through your mind when you were backstage and they were about to announce your name? You were about to hit the ring ramp, Impact Wrestling ring ramp for the first time, and head down to an Impact Wrestling ring. What was going through your mind at that moment?
I was nervous
Yeah.
beyond any capacity that I should have been, because because I had no, when I say I had no reason to be nervous, it's mostly because I'm thinking about like everybody who was there and like how kind and generous they were and how professional they treated me. I had no reason to be nervous because everybody was amazing. Like that locker room is one, unbelievably talented. Everybody treated me with such respect and they were so generous, so professional. So like and I was just nervous. Like I mean that's what
Sure.
I won't deny it. Like I was way more nervous than I wanted to be. But it was still such a great experience. Like overall I am happy with like how it went. Like even though I was like super nervous and probably more nervous than I wanted to be, I thought like with all those nerves I still performed at a level that I was like pleased with, you know. So like I definitely don't have like any like, oh, I wish I would have done this or that. Like I mean I went out and I did what I did, like what I would normally do. I feel like I just I have stuff to build on for next time. So like that's like the exciting part of it.
Yeah, from me being a fan watching the match, you did a fantastic job. It was a great match.
Thank you.
Great match. When did you find out it was going to be Sami Callihan? And did that get you nervous at all that it was Sami?
Yeah. So I found out when I got there. Probably maybe 45 minutes after I got there, I found out I was going to be wrestling Sami. And I've been fortunate enough to be like on, I think, a few shows with Sami. I know 2. And so we've met and we've talked a little bit. And he also vouched for me as well to D'Lo when they were deciding to bring me in or not. So like we have, Sami's always been cool with me. He's always treated me with such respect and been such a professional. So yeah, like, and I was nervous because, you know, you think about Sami Callihan, you're talking about a guy who's done like darn near everything in pro wrestling, and a guy who people respect and look at as like a genius when it comes to like matches and just being like a great professional wrestler. So like, yeah, I was definitely nervous to wrestle somebody of that caliber. But I also knew like when I got through to the other side, I would be a better wrestler for it. So like as nervous as I was, I knew like this has to be part of like my story. This is going to be part of my journey, is having this match with him and seeing where I need to go next.
Yeah, that pile driver at the end of the match, did that look worse? Did that look worse than it was? Because it looks like your head really hit the ring apron really hard.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying, but I didn't feel it. I didn't get like in a serious context of like my health. Like, yeah, no, I feel fine. Like it was but I got that quite a bit when I got back there. They're like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'm good. Like I'm fine." But yeah, it was fine. Like everything was cool. He's such a professional.
Okay, I could only imagine that Scott D'Amore or Don Callis were impressed. Did any of them speak with you after the match to indicate, great job, we'd like to see you back, and will you be back in Impact Wrestling?
So I'll answer the last question first, because I feel like that's the easiest one. That is not up to me.
Okay,
so
sure.
Because we don't have like a deal or anything, so like that's not up to me. I would say, to kind of expand on that idea, I was given a lot of positive feedback, but I was also given some things that I need to work on and some things that I need to consider as I move forward, and not just for them, but just for professional wrestling in general, just to be a better overall wrestler. So more or less, I don't know exactly what the future will hold with them, but I do know that experience was crucial for helping me understand some of the pieces that I'm missing right now. So I think that like I said, everybody was super professional. They made me feel awesome. They really did. Like there are a lot of guys in the locker room who came up to me and gave me like great advice and also made me feel good about myself at the same time. So very blessed to have that. But right now I can just say that my plan is to work on the things that they asked me to work on, keep those in mind, and continue working on things that I need to develop on, and that's where we're at with it. And if they choose to bring me back, that would be amazing. I won't lie, I'd love to come back, but right now it's just about getting better, and that's where we're at with it.
Okay, well, in my opinion, they need some good young talent, and I think you would be a great addition to the X Division. I think it would be a fantastic addition to X Division.
Yeah,
Hopefully, we'll see you back. Gonna keep my fingers crossed, man. And like I said, I think you against my plan, you against like Chris Bay or Rohit Raju. I think you already had a match with Rohit Raju in the past, I believe. But it'll be great matches. Hopefully, they bring it back, man. I'd love to see you back in Impact Wrestling.
I'd love to come back. We'll just see what happens, though. You know, in the meantime, just keep working and getting better, and I'm okay with that.
All right, what about some other destinations? Like I know there's AEW Dark. I think you would do really well in New Japan Pro Wrestling, US, NXT. I'm sure is in the back of your mind. Do you have any aspirations about possibly getting to those promotions?
Yeah, definitely. So my big wrestling goal is to wrestle in Japan. COVID has kind of impacted that quite a bit, just with travel and stuff like that. So we don't really know what the future holds in terms of international wrestling, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to sweat that too much because that's something that's out of my control. But my big goal is to one day make it to Japan and wrestle. So and I know that New Japan is doing the strong stuff here, like the US stuff. So that would definitely be cool. That's definitely something I'm looking at as a place to work to grow towards. And then the other places, AEW, NXT, I think my main goal as a wrestler is just to be the best wrestler, one that I can be, but even more so to be just the best wrestler. So I'm willing to go to multiple places to learn the skill set that would be needed, or learn different styles, learn different perspectives, because that's the kind of wrestler I want to be. I want to be able to do it all, and I want to be able to just do everything more or less. So I'm not adverse to just being I have to be one way, or I have to do this or that, or this is the kind of wrestler I am. I want to be able to do it all. I want to learn from the absolute best at every level. I mean, so that's just how I look at it. So all those spots you mentioned, they are absolute dream destinations because of one, because of the prestige that comes with them, but two, just the types of people that they have in their locker rooms right now. I mean, there's so much knowledge to be gained. So it's that's the way I just look at it. Is I would gladly go anywhere just to learn how to be a better professional and be a better professional wrestler.
So who wins in a match between Kota Ibushi and Brayden Lee? Who wins that match?
Come on, Kota Ibushi. Come on now. He's insane.
Nah, yeah, he is. He's probably right now my personal favorite wrestler in the world right now. I think he's the best wrestler in the world, without a doubt.
Amazing.
Kota. I love New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's my favorite promotion, and I hope to see you in the Super Juniors one day. That'll be great, man.
Oh, that would be such a dream. I know I said my goal is to be the best pro wrestler, but honestly there are destination points where if I did something, I know if I had to retire the next day, I could walk away happy, and I could be oh my gosh, that's great. So if I ever were to get into a tournament like that, the best of Super Juniors, and they said, okay, you're in the best of Super Juniors, but you have to retire the minute the tournament's over, I'd say, you know what? That's fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay. I made it. So, yeah.
So Hiromu Takahashi better keep looking over his shoulder, because Brayden Lee is coming for him, man.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing too. They're all amazing. I love the product that they have now. You said, it's your favorite. It's my favorite too. I watch it constantly. I go back and I watch matches like 4 or 5 times because I just like, I think it's so deep and it just makes me feel like, and that's what we all like about wrestling. It just makes us like feel something, you know? So that's like, I feel so like, I don't even know how to describe how I feel. I just love watching New Japan wrestling right now.
Man, I'll set my alarm for like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning so I can wake up and watch New Japan World. The live show. It's great stuff, man. Absolutely fantastic. So, last question: what's the dream match? What's the dream match for you? If you could pick one match to have, what's the dream match for Brayden Lee?
Oh man, so typically when I get this question, I give this answer. I give the answer that I don't like to throw names out there because I'm really big on like feeling, and it's just a personal thing for me. I know everybody's got their own style or their way of handling things, and I know nothing wrong with anybody who does say I want to wrestle so-and-so or I want to wrestle so-and-so. I just think for me personally, I don't want anybody to hand me a match just because I say I want it. Like, I don't want to just be like, I don't want to like tweet like, oh, I want to wrestle so-and-so. And then some company's like, oh, we'll make it happen. Here we go. And they hand it to me. So I don't like to put it out there necessarily like, this is who I want to wrestle and this is who I want to wrestle, because then I feel like maybe I won't have earned those matches. I feel like they were just given to me because I asked for them, which is fine. You know, I understand that some people a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So I get that. Like, I totally understand that, but I also am not opposed to wrestling like anybody. So it's not one of those things that like I'm super big on. Like, I have to ask for this match and this match because these are the people I want to wrestle. Like, you put me in the ring with anybody and I want to put on like for lack of a better term, I want to put on like the 5-star match with them. Like, I want to do that with everybody. So like, I'm not like, oh, I have to wrestle these people. And that's just for me. But sometimes, and I'll give you this answer that way I can feel like I answered the question happily. I will throw out like a match that like I would want to just to learn, just because I want to be able to like sit down, or like I don't even have to like be in the match. I would just love to sit next to like Kazuchika Okada and listen to how he puts a match together. That's like that's what I would want. Like, I would want like that type of, because I want that like level of understanding. And that's like why, and I would throw like a name out like that because like that's like completely like unrelated. Like, nobody's gonna book that right now, like because he's like, you know, he's way up here. So like nobody's gonna book that match right now, so that's fine. And I'd say that's like a match where like I would only get that match by like earning it. Like, I could tweet every day, me versus Okada, me versus it's not gonna happen like that. You know what I mean? So like, but that would be like, I guess how to answer that question. That would be like just the opportunity to learn from literally like, I think the best pro wrestler in the world. So like, that's how I would look at it. But
do you think you could take a chop to the throat from Tomohiro Ishii?
I mean, I could take it, but would I live? I don't know.
I had Toa Hanare on when he was feuding with Ishii, and I asked him about the chops. He said his throat was sore for about a week and a half after taking those chops.
Yeah. I mean, physically, I know my body could like literally take it. Would I be okay? I don't know about that. Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Well, Brayden, I want to say it was an absolute pleasure having you on today. And if you have anything to plug, if you have any merchandise, any social media, if you want to plug anything, just plug away, man. It's all yours.
First, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I always enjoy like just talking about wrestling. So like, this is always fun to do. And you're very kind and generous. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You can. Golly, I forgot where I was going with that. You can follow me on all my social media platforms. That would be Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Brayden X Lee. And that's all I have. I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't use it as much. I'm going to start that again, and I'll probably plug that on my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So if you follow me on those, stay tuned, because I do want to start putting YouTube content out again. So, but for now, just Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are the best ways to follow me and see what I'm doing.
Okay, man. Again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure. It was so fun talking to you. Come back anytime you like, and I look forward to you going one-on-one with Minoru Suzuki in the future.
All right, thank you. No, thank you so much for having me. I definitely want to come back. So anytime you're willing, please let me know.
Absolutely.
And
You're
we'll
always
make it
welcome,
happen.
man. You're always welcome, man. So this has been the Alliance Pro Wrestling Network Sunday special interview. Again, want to thank my guest, Brayden Lee. And until next time, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe, everyone. So long. Bye-bye.